So as things get further away from us, they look further away from us. Hey everyone, it's Nick with NJ Valenti Art, and in today's video, I'll go over the basics of perspective and how to use it to level up your art. Let's get started. Alright, so with perspective, objects appear smaller the further away from the viewer that they are. And it is also a way to give our 2D drawings that 3D feel, as if it's a real world that we could actually be a part of. So a few real quick simple ways that we can kind of demonstrate perspective. One would be overlap, just as we discussed in our How to Draw Basics video. This red circle, since it is overlapping this more reddish gray circle here, we can assume that this red circle here is in front of our other circle. This gives us a bit of perspective and creates a little bit more depth within our image. Another way that we could do that would be with placement. Since objects tend to get smaller the further away from the viewer they are. In this instance here, we've got our kind of red-gray circle here, and a smaller one. We can assume and kind of get the idea that that smaller circle may be further away from us than our circle here in the front. A nice way to combine both of those would be size. And again, size and overlap. Our large circle here is overlapping the smaller circle. The circle is smaller. So it's giving us just two different cues here. This circle is sitting in front, so this circle is further away, and the fact that it is smaller also suggests that it is further away from us than this circle here in the front. Okay, so let's do some actual drawing in perspective, and we're going to kind of go through, we'll start with 1 point perspective, 2 point, and 3 point, and I will explain the differences, and then in a little bit I'll show you some examples of how we can use this in our art. So basically, if we wanted to make a square, we just place our square anywhere for now, and essentially this 1 point here, all lines, everything is receding back to this 1 point. This is called our vanishing point, and it's on our horizon line. The horizon line is the furthest line in the distance that we could see. That's the horizon, and our vanishing point we have set right here in the center. Now, that vanishing point you could put anywhere along this line, but for now, we've got it right here in the center for our demonstration. So essentially what you want to do then with your square here is you want to trace each corner back towards the vanishing point. And then you could close that square off. Or maybe more of a rectangle in this case here. See the size. We could do another one down here. And we'll follow these corners back. So you can see how these corners are receding towards the vanishing point. The same would be true for a shape like a cylinder. Which again, remember, if we used that we used the cylinders for arms. So this would essentially be maybe an arm going off into the distance. The square could represent a head shape. We'll just do a few more. Fix the angle on that just a bit. And then we're just following these lines as they recede into space. So this is 1 point perspective. 1 point perspective is pretty straightforward. You've got one vanishing point that all lines will recede towards that one vanishing point there. The next type of perspective that we're going to look at is 2 point perspective. And now what 2 points perspective means simply is that there are now two vanishing points. So this kind of occurs when we're looking at the corner of an object. So let's take our square again. Say we're looking straight at the corner of the square. And now we've got each side of the square receding away from us. So this side will go towards this vanishing point here, and then this other side will follow this vanishing point. So this works when we're looking right at the corner of an object and both sides. So now we've got two sets of vanishing points, and this will work the same way wherever we decide to make that square. And in a top-down view like this, what we'll end up doing is we'll take this corner and we'll go to the opposite, and then this corner to that opposite vanishing point there. And again, see, we're coming up, follow this line there, follow these vanishing points in that direction, and then here we'd come to our opposite vanishing points. So that's a quick look at our 2-point perspective, and let's move over to 3-point perspective. Okay, so in 3-point perspective, it occurs when you're looking at the corner of an object and now either looking down at that object or up at it as well. So here we have a set of vanishing points that is all the way up here at the top, along with our 2 vanishing points here on the horizon line. So essentially how this would work is we've got to follow this line up towards the upper vanishing points. Our bottom vanishing points are still going to come to the same spots, still the same, off to the same vanishing points. But then now we need to, again, follow that 3rd vanishing point line. So see how now our building, say if this was a building, if this was going to be a street view here, maybe we got our sidewalk here. And then other buildings. Well, something like that. So all the buildings are moving up and away from us. As well as in either direction to the vanishing points on the horizon line as well. This could be accomplished by flipping the 3rd vanishing point down towards the bottom if we were going to be looking down on the object. So here's an example of 3-point perspective in use. This is a double-page spread from a comic that I had created, and here we have our horizon line. In the back here, we've got 1 point of perspective here. Our other point of perspective is way, way, way out to the side here. And then we have our 3rd vanishing point way below us. So you can see how we've got our lines coming straight down. These would be for the shelf edges. These edges coming in as well. And then we have the points receding to either vanishing point. So hopefully this gives you a little bit of an example of how perspective and these vanishing points can be used in artwork. This 3-point perspective really allows us to create a big, open, wide scene where we get a huge view of the area. And this really, for this scene in particular, really sets the stage as far as where the characters are going to be at and what their world really looks like while they're fighting or exploring it and whatnot. So 3-point perspective could be really useful for setting up a scene and really introducing the environment that your character is going to be kind of working within. Okay, with all that in mind, let's do a little bit of drawing. I've got my pencil tool here. So just for instance, remember when we were talking about the cylinder receding into space, moving away from us, and how you could look at an arm as a cylinder? So basically, if we had the shoulder shape on top of our cylinder, we'd be able to apply it here as well. So then this would be another shape on the shoulder, moving away. And let's say we had the forearm here. And then maybe a hand. So you see how you could turn that cylinder into an arm. Another thing we could do is if we have our head shape, we'll go with a nice rounded square as our center lines for our faces. We have our 2 eyes here, nose. Now, if we were going to turn this square, and now we're going to look at it, say the corner. So this is the square for the face. Now we're going to turn it so we see the corner of the head here. Our center line would be here. And then what we could do, objects get smaller as they get further away from us. So the eye furthest away will be smaller than this eye here. But you could see how perspective works on the face as well. And turning it in space. So that'll work with even more of an oval head shape, where we've got our center lines and our eyes. So continuing to put it all together, let's take a look at another image and go over the various things we've covered so far today about perspective. So right off the bat here, we've got these tall blades of grass. In front of our main character and background. So we've got a foreground element that's closest to us. So now everything else is going to be further away. So we've got one aspect of overlap here with the grass. Then we also have our character overlapping the background. So that would be our second area of overlap. And then again, as we continue, we've got the trees in the background, which are in front of the mountains. The mountain is in front of the sky. So we've got various layers of overlap here, all creating more and more distance and space from us as we get further back into the distance. So things will tend to get smaller the further away from the viewer they are, and they will get a little more faint in color and appearance, and that's due to atmospheric perspective, which we'll cover in a more in-depth perspective lesson later on. But right now I really want to demonstrate, most importantly, all the overlap we have going on here and how much that depth that really gives to us in our scene. We've got the grass, we've got our main character in front of the tree. This tree is in front of the smaller trees in the background here since they're further away, and these trees are in front of the mountain. The mountain is then in front of the sky as well. Now, if we take a closer look at our character and see how he is in perspective, we can almost look at him like, let's just create a new layer real quick. We can almost look at him as somewhat of a rectangle, with this side being further away from the sun and our light source. So you can see how that's moving in that direction. We've got the eyes moving in this direction. His belt, the tops of his boots, even his ankles tend to move in this direction here. So let's see, we'll demonstrate that a little bit further. We're going to look at his head in this more of a rounded square shape. You see this side, and then the eyes. Let's make that. So you can see these lines, how they recede to where a vanishing point would eventually be. So you just have a vanishing point out here, you have a vanishing point out here. Okay? And that would continue to work throughout the rest of the body as well. This is more of a general example, it doesn't line up exactly, but this is how you'd really be able to utilize perspective even within your figures. So perspective is applied to the figure, and then we have the various overlapping in order to create more depth, and then we have our main foreground grass as well, creating an object even closer to us, really emphasizing that depth and perspective. I hope you found this intro to perspective helpful. Perspective can be challenging but fun and rewarding as well. These worksheets will be available on Patreon. The link will be in the description below. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. And you can also support the channel directly by donating through the Buy Me a Coffee link in the description. Every bit helps me continue to make new content. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss any new videos. Until next time.